Welcome back to the R-Rated Podcast. The R-Rated Podcast. This week's guest is... Welcome back to the R-Rated Podcast. Today's guest is...
Hello guys, my name is Matias.
I had him introduce himself because I would have totally butchered his last name and I did not want to do that. Today we're going to talk about not only is he a composer, a sound mixer, but he's a Latin Grammy winner. First one on the podcast. Congratulations, first of all. I think that's a huge achievement. And was that part of the plan? Like, did you ever, was this a dream of yours?
I mean, I have to say this. When... I won the Latin Grammy for a work that I did with music. And,
okay.
You always fantasize with getting awards or,
right.
the what if scenario. Of,
right.
Maybe if I move, because I come from Argentina, for those of you
that
Argentina.
Yes, I love
it's the country of tango,
yes.
Football.
Great food as well.
We also have the Pope.
Yeah.
But... coming here, my main focus has always been when I moved to LA, making music for films. So that's why I moved to LA, because that's kind of where you need to be, at least at the beginning of your career, if you want to make connections.
Yes.
So my performing tango specifically, because I play piano and I play a lot of tango. When I was in Argentina, I was mainly working as a tango pianist.
Oh, okay. Wow.
Right?
Okay.
Yeah. But then I moved here and I was like, I want to put my Argentinian culture aside because now I want to focus on, making music for films and, see how the industry works.
Wow. Yeah.
What happened is that me as an Argentinian being here, people started to be like, hey, you are from Argentina. You must know how to play tango. We need a tango player or we need tango music,
Did you like that or did you feel like I'm getting stereotyped right now?
Well, unfortunate. I don't know if it's unfortunate or a lucky thing to happen, but here in Hollywood, when you have a specific strong background from a specific culture, people tend to stereotype you, and sometimes it's a bad thing, but sometimes it can be a good thing.
Right.
In my case, it played to my advantage because, for example, you have no idea how many films are in the need of perhaps one tango music cue, or
that's true.
Or because I'm from Argentina, I also have ties. We also have ties with Europe. So
yeah, of course.
I am, for example, myself half Italian, half Austrian.
I was just in Italy. I love Italy.
Yes. Well, you have to talk about that.
Yeah.
The thing is this. Being here in LA, to answer your question, I actually, life brought me back to my tango roots and my Argentinian roots.
Okay.
And when they called me to perform in this group called Tinto Tango, the one which we won the Grammy with.
Yeah.
The thought of, hey, maybe, what are the odds? Because, for example, as a film composer, you can aim to win an Oscar, or of course also.
But when you were making this, did you? You were just I'm making the song and was it another I'm just composing music for a film?
Here is the thing.
Did you really think it was gonna did you know they were gonna?
I had no expectations.
Okay.
As I was trying to tell before, you always fantasize that maybe one day I will get this award.
Yeah.
You make visions of yourself.
Of course.
In your head.
Of course. I have envisioned myself getting an Oscar. Of course,
right?
Thank you.
My point is that in my case, I had the idea, but it's not that I was like, hey, I am going to do this to win the Latin Grammy.
Right.
Because in my experience, if I actually do that, maybe it doesn't happen.
I think that's why you actually won and you did so well, is because you weren't thinking about that. You were thinking about just creating art music for this film that, you enjoyed, you're passionate about, and that's what won you the award.
Yes, and in our case, because we as a band did this album, we were doing what we like in the best way we can, and that's always has been what has driven my career. Just do things out of passion.
Yes.
And as a freelancer, I have the chance to actually select the work that I want to do, which I think is very important. To make sure that you don't get tired of the work that you do, and you always put passion in it. And in my case, again, I just did this album because I love the music of my country, and being here, I thought it was a nice opportunity to put an album. I guess also when you live abroad, you kind of start to value more things from your country when you're abroad, because you feel, okay, I miss these things of my culture, this makes me feel closer to home, so to speak.
Yeah.
And after we did this album, we we actually started recording the album long time ago, in like 2017, I think.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow. So it's been like an ongoing process.
Yeah, because we actually, when we started, again, it's not that we did it or we were planning on doing this album to win an award. We just wanted to,
you were taking your time with it. You were doing what it was, what needed to be done.
Yeah, especially because, no one paid us to do this album. So we kind of had to do it on our free time.
I was going to say, how much does it cost to make an album? Like, how much time are you spending, like, a day? Like, how many hours are going into making an album? Like, not me. I don't have I played piano for like 5 years when I was a kid, but like, that's the extent of my musical history background, whatever you want to call it. Yeah. So I'm curious, like, how much time are you spending on this?
Okay, since this is a big passion project of ours, it pretty much took forever, I want to say, because we were only able to do it on our free time,
Right, there was like no deadlines.
No
like
deadline,
you were just
which in our case is something good. Now, if you're a big artist that depends on releasing, the golden album of the year, then that's going to be an issue if you don't do it fast. But of course, they have a big team behind. They have like a lot of music producers, songwriters, they have everything. We didn't have anything.
You're doing it as a freelancer, like literally on your own. No one's like backing you, right?
No one but ourselves and our family, So they were the only ones that were like, okay.
That makes it just more impressive. Like, I just feel like, like that's every freelancer's dream. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like not having to like follow, whatever like a studio producer or like management, like agent wants you to do is like, it's crazy. Like, you have so much freedom. And like, that's like,
for example, if you think about this in Hollywood, it's very common, especially, back in the days where you have this, for example, one example that comes to my mind is Stallone, how he created the script of Rocky, by himself. He took forever to write.
They were like, we'll buy it, but he wanted to be the actor, right?
Yeah, he wanted to be and
they were like, no.
I'm not sure if he directed it as well or not, but, he really pushed to,
he's like, I need to be the one acting. I need to be the one directing.
Yeah, and I think he even had to sell his dog, to like make money for the film.
His dog?
Yeah, I think the story is that he sold his dog for like little money, and then he actually bought it back. For, like,
okay, thank God. Thank God. I was like, Sylvester, you sold your dog?
Yeah. But, going back to our case, we did it without expecting anything to happen in particular, because we just wanted to do it for the love of, of our culture. Now, fast forwarding, to 2020, there were the Latin Grammys. We were during COVID, and, we were like, hey, since we are not able to perform, why don't we submit the album now to, the Latin Grammys and see what happens?
How does that process work, to just submit your album to the Latin Grammys? Like, I mean, you just go on a website and you're like, submit?
So, short answer is yes.
Okay.
Long answer is that, there is a process. Nowadays, music is not only to listen to, but it's also very visual. So chances are that people that are going to consume your music, they want to see a music video.
Yeah.
Even myself, when I'm checking a new artist, I want to see.
You want to see?
Video.
Yeah, I'm guilty of that. Like,
you
when I was younger, I would actually spend like my afternoon just watching music videos. I like thought that was fun, just watching like different, like when it's like the top like 25 music videos,
right?
And you watch it, and it's like, and you like the songs, and it's just entertaining. Like, I used to do it all the time.
I don't want to date myself, but I remember having a VHS and recording from MTV. Like,
I love
it. Videos. So yeah, that was my childhood.
I love it. I
love that. And
that's what makes you and the artist that you are today.
And when we were now on the process of submitting to the Grammys, one of the first questions is, okay, what do we need if we want to actually get like votes or get exposure?
I wouldn't even know. Yeah.
So we didn't really know either. Like we knew from seeing what other artists do, but something that really helped us is a producer and 17 times Grammy winner, Rafa Sardina, who is the main producer of our album, and he kind of guided us on what do you need as a band, as an independent band, if you want to compete against
Was he independent, or was he independent? Is that why they helped you, they were backing you, like, oh yeah, like, you're freelance?
Basically, he's a person that we reach out and gave us advice.
That's huge.
That's pretty,
I feel like that's not that like easy to come by, like having someone that is so like, that's a winner, has won so many times, be like, yeah, I'll help you.
Well, the thing is that they also trust in the product, so to speak. So he actually listened to our album and he knew that, there was something.
There's some, you guys are.
Yeah, otherwise, some of those producers, they might not even, answer your phone, But if they see that, there is something interesting for them to explore, or for them to actually guide you because they think that you have potential, then you have more chances of getting good advice. And in our case, the first thing that he said is like, hey guys, you need to make music videos, you need to really, before submitting to the Grammys, you need to make sure that you are all over the place in the social media.
Oh my God,
Which I have to say that we were not the best ones in keeping up to date with our social media.
No, there's so much that comes with it, and it's like, and I feel like I don't know if it was always like this, but now it's like, you make a song, you have to have a music video. Then you it's not just like any music video. It has to like stand out. Like, I feel like, it can't just be like, oh, like this guy put like no effort into it. Like people notice that,
But you even said it right. Nowadays, you make a song. Like back in the days, you have to make a whole album, and then release a whole album, and hopefully people from that album were going to choose one song that they like the most, like, let's say Michael Jackson's Thriller, this classic song from the album. But then nowadays, I guess on one hand it's easier because you can release only one song, and you can already tell people, hey, this is who I am by this song, and you don't need to spend so much money in recording a whole album. You can do one song at a time, which helps. On the downside of that, you might be more limited to a specific style or a genre. If you do one, like for example, people that do reggaeton, they might get stuck with that genre. And then if they want to do something different, unless they do collaborations with like,
it's hard to like move into.
It's really hard because again, big artists have big producers and a big marketing behind them, so they don't want the artist to,
That's kind of like Taylor Swift. Remember, she started as country music, and then when she started doing pop, people were like. But like now it makes sense. Like now I just see her as a pop star. Like I don't really see her as like a country star. So it's interesting how that works. Do you want to like branch out into another music genre, or are you happy where you're at?
Well, this is the main reason why I do music for films. Because music for films, as opposite to, for example, playing only classical music or only tango or jazz, is not limited to one genre of music. Every film is different. And, you as a director, you might want for your film, a piece of rock and roll, but then some other director might want classical music, or tango or jazz or electronic music. So every project is different, and that's what I love about this. That I'm not stuck in one genre. And I'm saying this because throughout my life, if there is one thing that I experienced, is that, I would get bored of doing the same thing over and over again.
I think that's why we joined the film industry, because it's so different every day. You know what I mean? Like each movie, each show, each short film, like music video, like it's a different story, and it brings people together. And it's just so cool when like what you can create together, So, I mean, I totally get it. That's kind of why I joined the film industry too, is because it's like, it's fun.
Yeah,
it doesn't feel like a job.
Of course, it definitely does not feel like a job, and especially doing music for films. It's like,
what is that like? Well, sorry, like I just like don't know. Like, are you okay? So like, let's say, how do you from the beginning? Like, do you get a script sent to you, and then they're like, can you compose like this is the genre of the film? Like, it's a drama. Like, can you compose like something more dramatic or like mysterious or thriller? Like, is that like, do they tell you, or do you like read the script and you're like, reading the script, I feel like this is the type of genre of music that would fit this type of script? Like, how does that unfold?
Okay, so there is not one specific or right way to working with a composer, but from my experience, I like to think of music for films as one more character that you cannot see on the film, but you can hear and of course feel. So to me, it's very important not actually to read the script, because what happens if someone sends me the script in advance is that, there is no information of photography or colors. I can imagine it in my head. But what happens is that then, let's say I have a picture in my head of how the voice of the actors sound or how the pacing of the scene goes, and then I watch the final cut, and it's like, hey, this is completely different to what
exactly.
So it is always easier in my experience to get a cut that I can watch and react as audience.
Oh, okay. So not until like they're done shooting, basically, do you?
I mean, the film has to go to post-production.
Okay, so not until post-production are you
That's
getting
the most
involved.
ideal case. Now, sometimes the composer might get involved early in the pre-production process, especially if we're talking about a musical, for example, in which the actors need to sing songs.
Right.
So the composer might compose the songs in advance. But most of the times, at least with most of the composers nowadays, they tend to get involved in post-production.
Wow. Okay, that's huge. That's a big thing that I didn't even know, because, you know, like usually when you start a film or like a show, like everyone, you have all the crew members like before, everyone's signing their contract, like, you know, pre-production, you work together and then on set. But to join, you know, later on when you're a composer, like as in post, like that's interesting. Like you and the editor are like, and you know, the marketing people are like the ones that join later on. I mean, like that's really cool to know.
Like sometimes I am hired after they get a release date.
Oh my god,
and, you know, it's like crazy. Okay, I know that the film is going to be
released. But does that feel like enough time to be able to
it never feels like enough
time. Yeah, because it's like they're already like towards the end. And they're like, okay, like I feel like they pace it with the editor's time. You know what I mean? It's like, hey, like the editor says like he needs like, let's just say like 2 months until like this is done. Like, do they give you the same amount of time frame?
Sometimes they do give you, you know, a good amount of time, especially if they know that the music is going to require, you know, a lot of work. Like, for example, some films require, like, let's just say, you know, a massive orchestra. Right. They know that the composer has to work a lot.
Yeah, you can't
as
rush.
Opposite to just me composing on a piano, right?
So right, yeah.
You cannot rush that, especially if the filmmaker understands the importance of that music that he or she requires for his or her film. Now, some other directors have no idea. You know, they give you like, they want to have a massive orchestra, and they are like, hey, you have a week, and that you are like, yeah, that's impossible.
Yeah. But, like,
so what happens is, to answer the previous question, so I get involved in post-production. They give me a cut of the film that I can watch, and most of the times, because composing music for a film is not necessarily linear, it's not that I start on the first scene and I end up on the last
you don't
scene.
Okay.
No, because most of the time, just like shooting a film,
you don't have to.
Like, unless, you know, you do require to shoot the first scene first and the last scene last.
Right, unless there's a reason for it.
You don't choose a location and you shoot all the locations.
You shoot out of order. Right, yeah.
You know, depending on many factors. In the case of making music for a film, I usually start by the scene that is going to give me, for example, the main themes or the themes that I know the director, you know, wants the audience to really identify with, you know.
Because that kind of like sets the mood of the movie.
That sets the mood of the movie, or, you know, the scene or the actors, or again, these elements that I know are going to serve me as, you know, like my canvas of sounds.
Right,
you know? So
that makes sense.
Once I nail that and I know that the director is super happy with that, then I know what he or she likes, and then I'm like, okay, now that I have this palette of sounds, I can develop the rest of the film.
Right, that makes sense.
Because, for example, when you make music for a film, it's not that you just throw random music on each scene. The music, the score has to have a sense.
And it has to make you feel something. It can't just be like random like notes of music and you're just like, okay.
Of
like,
course, the main purpose of music for a film is to make the audience, to put a feeling into the audience. And sometimes the feeling is already in the film without having to actually put music, which is a big mistake from, you know, like first time directors thinking that they have to be music everywhere, and sometimes the actors or the
that's so
photography,
true. Oh my god, I totally you honestly unlocked a memory for me from film school. Like when I was in film school, when we were everybody was figuring out how to be like a director, trying to figure out like what makes a good movie and stuff. A lot of filmmakers were putting music in every scene, like in every moment. It's like you didn't need it, but it's like it was like, I don't know why, like everybody just thought like you need music, but it's like what's key is like certain where you put the music and like how long, and like it doesn't have to be dragged on, and like it could just be like certain moments, and it's like it could just get you know what I mean, which is,
well, you know, from my experience, the reason why some directors do that is because it's a fortunate thing and a bad thing, which is music glues everything together. You know, it's the last stage that filmmakers have to kind of polish the film, because that's, you know, sound design, ideally, if it's well done, you don't have to even realize or notice that someone did a sound design. Like if you do Foley or you know, like re-record the actor's voice, the idea that you watch a film and you don't even pay attention.
I know.
You don't even think that there was someone, you know, doing all those sounds that you take for granted that was in the film.
Yeah.
Now with music, it's kind of like, you know, that observing something from outside the place, and I think the music has that capacity of floating around the scene, and again, transitioning from one scene to another, or for example, let's say that there is a mood change in the scene with actors, the music can really help you achieve that mood change without making scene that is too abrupt, for example, because music 100%. Is already preparing you for 100%. That. If it's not well done, then you get the risk of just throwing so much music that perhaps you didn't need. But if it's well done, you know that the music is helping in a way, and at the same time you don't even notice perhaps when the music started or when the music ends. But, that
it happens. When it happens, you're just like, wow, it just.
Yeah, and there are even some scenes that without music would be wordless, because for example, to give you an example, when Steven Spielberg was shooting Jaws, when the shark comes, I understand that the mechanic shark had a lot of issues on set, and they were not able to shoot as much as they wanted with the shark,
right?
But then Sean Williams, because that's why he's a genius,
he
scored the music in such a way that people, you ask
less
people,
is more, almost like you see that.
No, but you also ask people, okay, how many times or when is the scariest moments, and they say when the shark is approaching. But then if you pay attention, there is no shark. It's just the music.
It's just the music.
Big and big, and of
course,
that
sound literally is world famous now
you
too.
think that the shark is coming because he made the audience associate the
is
with
it
shark.
coming
so
closer.
Whenever you have that psychologically,
Genius.
It's like, oh, it's coming
That's
closer.
So smart. Same with Psycho, when it's like probably not the best impersonation of it, but you know what I mean.
Close enough. I think the audience will get it.
Yeah. But whenever I take a shower, I'm like, oh my God, is this the moment?
And funny thing, that Hitchcock, for that scene, he wanted no music. He actually wanted complete silence. But then Bernard Herrmann, because nowadays, and this is another advantage of technology. Nowadays, for example, if I'm making a score for you, for example, I can make a demo in my computer, and you can pretty much watch your film with my music and instantly react to what I'm doing and tell me, hey, Matias, I love this, but I don't like that. Can we change that note? Back in the days, there were no computers, so the only time that the directors had to check the music was at the scoring stage when they were recording the music.
Oh,
and you have no idea how many times the director would listen to the music for the first time with the orchestra, and he or she was like, dude, that's not what I asked you. Like, what are you doing?
Well, and I feel like it sounds more intense with a whole live orchestra in front of you. You'd be like, whoa. But then in the end, when you see it complete, you're like, it's a must. Like, this needs to be in it.
No, of course. But my point is that back in the days, if the director didn't like something, they were already recording.
It was already
the music,
too late.
So it was too late.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, the composer had to make changes on the spot, and that was really hard and time-consuming, and it would waste a lot of money.
Wow.
Nowadays, before you record with the orchestra, you make a demo in your computer, with amazing sounds.
Got it.
And then if the composer is good enough, they can create something that sounds very accurate to the final product. So before spending $500,000 recording a massive orchestra, then you know what you're spending your money in.
Right. Oh,
as opposed to back in the days, not knowing. My point with that scene in Herman is that in Psycho is that Bernard Herrmann actually scored that scene and told Hitchcock, hey, wait for the recording session because I have something to show you. I mean,
that's trust right there, right? Like,
well, Bernard Herrmann was a genius, and the collaboration with Hitchcock, really paid off because they made amazing movies together. So they were at the point in which they kind of trusted each other, and,
they kind of trusted each other. I love it.
Well, because you never know.
You never know.
You never know. It's like, I trust you, but at the same time, I give you my
that's
baby,
a scary thing, and it's like you don't see. You're just gonna, but good thing you trusted him. Right?
Yeah, and then nowadays, if you ask for what's the most iconic piece of film cue or music that everyone knows, one of them is that scene from Psycho. You might not know the whole score, but that part. The shower scene. You might not even know what the movie's about, but you know that's something about the shower.
And when you said Jaws, I'm like, it's so true. Like, I never even thought about it. You don't really see the shark approaching. You just know that, like, it's happening, like he's coming, but it's all just because of the music. Like, it's amazing, like, what music can make you feel, and like how it can make you just like, it's like the missing puzzle piece almost. Like,
And also because that, just like love, for example, music is a universal language. Yes. So regardless of it
doesn't matter where you're from, you can understand it.
You can understand it, or if you don't understand, because you don't need to understand the notes, but you react emotionally. Like, music can cause you an emotion regardless of where you are from or your cultural background.
Yeah.
So the advantage of this is that if I show you a movie in like Korean and you don't speak Korean, at least with the music and of course, the emotions that you see on the screen without understanding the language, you can react emotionally. And that's very powerful because
it is.
One of the first or the early things that the audience can remember once the movie finishes is a music melody.
Oh, I
like for example, if I sing ta 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 da da da.
True. Yes.
I am not singing the whole orchestra.
Yeah,
but you understand.
I understand.
Your head already. You are picturing the whole orchestra because that's the power of music.
Wow.
You can really trigger into the audience an emotion or a feeling or a character, and music is very powerful for that. And again, once the film ends, they might not remember the wardrobe or the exact location of,
but they will remember the music,
the props in the scene, but then they do remember music.
Right. No, and then sometimes even the songs become so popular, like we don't talk about Bruno, like from Encanto. I love that song. I feel like everyone just really that song was stuck in their head, and like my coworkers at work on my last job, they were like singing it, and they're like, Encanto is like amazing, the soundtrack's amazing, and I'm like, wow, like a soundtrack can go beyond just the film, you know what I mean? And like it can be played in your family's home, and they feel connected because it's like, oh, it's about family, it's about like growing up, whatever the thing is. But it's like, it's really cool that it can go so much more than just like in the film. It's like, oh, it's just a song in the film. It's like, no, it like this brought a memory together. This like, I don't know, it's just really cool. I really like enjoy it.
Well, because if you think about it, everyone likes music or can identify with a
I feel like
if
you don't like music, that's I don't think I've ever met anyone that's like, I don't like music.
You're not human.
I know. I'd be like a little concerned.
You're a reptilian.
Yeah, you're an alien. So how long does it take? Like, what was like the longest amount it took you to record? Maybe the Latin one, or the one that you won your Grammy?
No, because that's an album that again we did it out of passion, and there was no
deadlines.
There were no deadlines that we need to accomplish,
right?
But when you are making music for a film, you're just part of something else, and people depend on you, like to do the final mix of the whole sound, and it's called the dubbing stage when they put all the sound design with the music, with everything. They do depend on the composer to have the work completely done.
How long? Like, how long do they give you? Like, what's like the average time frame?
The average time, let's just say, is between 3 weeks and a month.
That's not that long
for a big film.
For an hour film, for like an hour and a half.
Well, here's the thing: an hour and a half movie doesn't have an hour and a half of music.
That's true.
Usually, an hour, like the average.
What's the average for like an hour and a half?
35 minutes to 45 minutes of music spread around the film.
But you're making it from scratch though?
Most of the times I'm making it from scratch, and it is demanding, but then the more you do it, the more you get comfortable with like
exploring maybe new notes or something,
like just like an actor that has to memorize a whole script, sometimes I have even had these discussions with my actor friends, and it's like, hey, do you actually have the whole script in your head the whole time? And they're like,
yeah. I do wonder that too. Like, I'm like, what's your like memorization process? Like, how do you, because like sometimes I'm like, there's a lot, like they need it, like when they have monologues too, and then it's like they go from like a 7-minute monologue to like a conversation. I'm like, what the hell? That's crazy.
For example, just like for an actor might be, okay, I'm gonna actually focus on my monologue scenes first, because those are the ones that are going to be the key of my acting, or my how I'm gonna contrast the big fighting scene with the silly scene of the film. Right. In music, it's the same. As I was telling you before, if I start by the scene that is either the more complex one, or the one that is going to give me the most themes,
right?
Once I have the themes, then everything becomes easier, because you already know.
It's like it falls into place almost.
Yeah, it's like once you build your character and you know the nuances of your character, then you can put your character in different situations, and you already know how your character reacts. But building your character might be the hard thing, because you need to, think about the background of your character, or how my character would react in this situation, why, so in music it's the same. Once I have my melodies and there is a psychology behind each melody that I do, then I can trust that the process is going to become smoother as I go, because it's just filling the blank spaces. It's like solving a puzzle. At the beginning, you try to put pieces here and there, but then when you look at the big picture, it's like, oh, okay, now that I put a few trees, I can start to see the forest.
Right, of course. I like that.
Again, it becomes easier and easier. I would say that the first week is the toughest one, because
because you're like sitting there like, okay, I seriously have to make this from scratch. Like I have to like, play around maybe with some, like what is your beginning process?
Okay, my beginning process is having deep discussions with the director to understand what they want. Because again, if I give you, for example, a script, you might direct that script in a certain way, but then another director can do something completely different. And your music choices for that script or that film might be completely different from the other director. So my first job is try to understand the director's psychology and point of view towards the music. Why do they like certain sounds? Like, for example, sometimes I do ask directors to provide me with some temp music or music as reference that they feel, not necessarily that they like for themselves when they are alone at home, but rather that they feel belongs to the world of the film, right? So once they give me a few references, for example, let's say
they will tell you other movies, like, oh, it's like like the music is similar to like this movie or something like that. Like, is that how they?
Especially because, unfortunately, when it comes to music, most of the times directors are very knowledgeable in talking with the DP about lenses, frames, camera. Actors about emotions, the wardrobe. They can give specific comments and direction. But when it comes to
music, they're like,
it's like, hey, I want something that makes me sad.
Guilty.
I think the scene here should make me feel this or that. Right. They are not necessarily going to tell you, hey, can you play the violas portamento and make 16 notes and then change C minor to, like, that doesn't happen, and it's good that it doesn't happen.
Right. Because I was going to say, would that make that easier or would it make it harder? Like,
it would make it harder because sometimes director, like, for example, if they could be very knowledgeable in music, chances are they could not be directors, or they could make their own music.
Right.
Like Sean Carpenter, for example, he would compose his own scores. But the idea with having a composer is to, have that, rely on that person to take care of that department, so you don't have to,
so you don't have to.
It's like doing sound design. Chances are you're not going to tell your sound designer what plugins to use to make the audio sound. You might want to say, hey, I want this audio to sound that is coming from outer space.
Right. Even when you're directing and you're like telling the actors, like, maybe at this part you'll feel this emotion, you still want to let them put their own emotion and thought into it, like, and not be like, do this, do that, move your arm this way when you say this line, it's too much, because then it feels so like animated and like robotic.
yeah, of course. And then, for example, when I ask directors to give me some music, then I can tell right away, okay, they like this genre. For example, if I ask you for a song and you give me, Red Hot Chili Pepper song, I'm like, okay, she likes electric guitar, she likes drums, she likes a male voice perhaps, or a song or something. So that gives me clues. So then when I do something original for their film, I know exactly what palette of sound to start with. Right? Some other times, though, they give me some music, and me as a composer, it's also my job to kind of guide the director. And, if I feel that they had given me the wrong type of music, then it's my job to tell them, hey, I understand why you might have liked this music, but what if, like,
working with them,
because
like you want the music to match the film too, and maybe I feel like you would know, like, as a composer, like, okay, this scene, like, this emotion would come out more if we add this like type of music or tone instead of like this, you know what I mean? Like, it's so crazy, like what music and just a little snippet of like of a part of a song could do, and like change the like mood of the audience and think like something totally different.
Absolutely, because at the end of the day, it's putting an emotion in the audience. And sometimes, like, for example, if you have a big fighting scene, let's say with like warriors and arrows flying everywhere, you don't necessarily have to score what you see on the picture. Sometimes, like, for example, in Gladiator, there is a point in which they are fighting and blood everywhere.
It's like gore.
Like super gore. But the music is so calm, and it's like
is it like classical almost?
I think, I don't remember exactly, but it's like this amazing singer, I think she's from Israel if I'm not mistaken. I cannot remember her name, but it's just her humming,
I like that. It's like opposite of what you're seeing,
because we are inside the mind of the main character, and basically he's not there at that moment. He's thinking of his family, of all his, emotions that he left behind because his family was murdered. So, at that moment, even though he's there, he's not present. His mind is not present at that moment. So the music is actually telling the audience that. It's like, hey, almost like, when you're talking to someone, but then your mind, or
like you kind of doze off. Yes.
Out,
that
moment created that. So that, for example, a change of direction. Another example, for example, would be in Hannibal. I think there is one scene in which he's like on a cell, and then the guards are going to give him like his meal.
Right.
But throughout the whole scene, we listened to classical music. We can hear, I think, a piece of Bach.
Yeah.
And then at some point in the scene, he attacks the guard and he, eats his ear or something like that. Very like extreme.
Casual.
The point is that we keep hearing Bach because in Hannibal Lecter's mind, he's just having a meal.
Right.
It's a moment for him to. He even puts the napkin in his chest.
Yeah.
Kind of like, I'm about to have a meal. And if you think about it, somehow, creepy enough, but the audience kind of embraced with Hannibal Lecter. You don't want him to die. You don't want him to do bad because you kind of feel sorry for the guy, So that's the power of music. They
it really is.
Feel that he's that he's fucked up, but at the same time, you want
damn, this is twisted.
To succeed,
Right.
And that's again the power of music. Make you, like someone.
Even in, I think it was in one of the X-Men movies, they were like, they have a huge fight scene also, and there's a lot of like shooting, fighting, whatever, a lot of battling going on, and it's like it's literally like a song that's playing, like, and it's something from like the 50s. It's very like calm and slow, and it's like, it's just cool though. Like, I liked it. Like, it's like very opposite of what's happening on the screen.
That, it's interesting that you mentioned that, because if it's I don't recall that scene, but if it's a piece of music that is not composed for the film but rather from the classical music repertoire,
right,
that is more powerful or as an existing
I think
song,
so too.
Because, for example, like most people know Beethoven 15.
Yeah, of course.
So you might have a memory of your childhood, the first time that you hear that, or maybe your parents heard that on the radio. Like, my point is that it triggers a memory from your childhood,
from your past.
Past. So that's another powerful thing of music, because
it can unlock certain memories you forgot, or like
if
put
you're
in the
watching
back.
a film and all of a sudden you hear a song by, I don't know, the Beatles or Britney Spears.
Yeah.
Maybe you connect with, like I can even show you like a few seconds of the song, and you already know the whole song.
Right.
You don't
need you don't need like 3 minutes of it. You're like, just even 30 seconds, not even 30 seconds, like 10.
Like,
10 seconds.
The lead part, and you already know, or the intro or whatever, and you already know, it represents something from your past, and those memories from the past are very powerful when it comes to music on a film, because there are certain films, for example, 2001 Space Odyssey, in which Kubrick he originally actually hired a composer, but then this is one example in which after he recorded the music, he didn't like the music at all, and he ended up throwing the whole original score away.
God,
and
that's so awkward. I feel I feel bad for the composer, because you're like, I feel like that would fuck with your confidence, right? Because you're like, oh my god, he literally just threw it all away. But
but if you think about it, I think in this case Kubrick took the right approach, because everyone pretty much that is familiar with that Kubrick's film know that beginning piece, it's actually from Richard Strauss, called Arsos Prague Zarathustra, but it's like da da da.
Yes.
Because the powerful thing about using all existing music, like Kubrick did with that film, is that it also represents human knowledge and human achievements. Like, he used also from Strauss, different Strauss, the Blue Danube, which is a when they are floating in space.
I love it.
So it's kind of like saying, hey, back in the days we were doing this valse music, but now we are floating in space.
Right.
Connect the two together. It's like what humans were doing before. That was perhaps the most advanced thing in technology to do back in the days prior to the Industrial Revolution, was, to have an opera with a production designer, playing strings to make something live. From
Isn't
there
that crazy?
to, putting humans in space. So that really connected the two things together. And, the music was kind of like a repertoire of what the humans have accomplished musically speaking. And then when you put that with the film that is about, humans, gaining knowledge, living to space, especially on a time where we haven't yet reach the moon,
right,
was very powerful because, again,
of course,
Kubrick was making a sci-fi film about,
yeah,
taking for granted that we were already in space.
yeah.
And at the same time, again, if he would have had an original piece of music, maybe it would have not been as powerful as having music that represents how the humans were evolved through music.
Everyone has such a different experience, and like your path is very interesting, and I feel like it's very inspirational for other people who are doing the same thing, because like we said earlier, like there isn't a clear path. So sometimes, we can get lost and like flustered and frustrated in like the fact of like, oh my God, like, am I making it? And you like compare yourself to other like filmmakers in the industry, and then it's the worst thing to do. Like, don't do that. So I'm glad that you honestly were just speaking from the heart and we're very honest about like everything, because I think that's key, and that's like something we can take away and like actually learn and be like, okay, this is what I can do to like become better filmmaker or whatever, you know what I mean? So thank you, I really appreciate it, and again, congratulations. I'm so excited for you. I'm like,
thank you very much.
I have to find the award show and watch it, because I watch all the award shows. I watch the Grammys here and like the Oscars. I'm like a big award show person, so I'm like, I want to see your moment when you can
find the highlight, because they take all the highlights.
Yes. I'm like, I'm gonna find it. Also, if you want to let the audience know like where we can listen to your album or any work that we can check out.
Of course, yeah. Well, I have a gather of all my work and social medias in my website, which is www.matiaspiegari, which is Matias, P as in Peter, IEGARI.com.
Yes.
And there they can find my SoundCloud, my Spotify, iTunes, my social medias like Instagram, and that gathers like all my
and you can check out, like, you'll be tagged with your Instagram in this episode as well. Awesome. So click it and you can find his music. And if you're looking for a composer for your film, ding ding ding, you got Matt. Thank you again so much for coming on, and I'll see everybody next week. Bye.